So I expressed that to him, and he was like, gave me the biggest hug. And from there, it was like a whole different marriage, a whole different relationship, because it was like there was an understanding. Hey, my wife has really been hurting, and here he is, a young boy. He don't know anything. He didn't have his dad. His mom didn't show him the love that he needed, and my mom was his mom, and so it was like devastating for both of us. And so we got, continued on with our marriage, tried to make it work, that kind of thing, and had another baby right after that. 11 months later, had another baby. In fact, people think they're twins because they're so close in age, but had them. And then shortly after that, we had another baby. We had our third daughter. And right when we had our third daughter, we ended up moving and going through some transition because there was a lot of drug activity near my mom's home. And I was at home a lot with the babies. So I was like, hey, I don't want to live over here anymore. So we had some friends to help us get to move into a nicer home in the Katy area. And it was like, oh, we moving up, we making money. We got our cleaning business, we're making money, we generating income. He has his full-time job, I have a full-time job, benefits. We're doing okay for ourselves. And so moving forward, we moved out into Katy using a friend's reference and his thing of flipping mortgages and things like that, only to discover it was a scam. Here we are with, at the time when we moved, I actually only had 2 babies and 1 on the way. And we were staying in the house on an air mattress, a futon and an air mattress. And that was all the furniture we could afford to get, in the baby's high chair. Just so that we were thinking we was gonna build a home here. This is gonna be a nice neighborhood for our kids to grow up in. All these different goals and dreams. And to find out that the guy that we was working with, that we thought was our friend, got my mom's house foreclosed on and the house we were living in foreclosed on. So everything was padlocked. We lost all pictures and memories and things, everything we had. And we had to call, we called family, but at the same time, we decided to not do that. We moved into an apartment in Katy for a short period of time while he decided to go on the road with the trucking business to generate more income to help us get us out of this rut that we were in. And so we did that, only to be evicted from that apartment. He was on the road. I was at the end of my pregnancy with the 3rd baby and 2 small babies. And I can remember the officer coming to their door and said, I hate to do this, but y'all gonna have to leave. And here I am, during this time, thankfully I didn't have to take care of my brother. He was living in Boston with my uncle. And the relationship was broken off. He wouldn't let us have a relationship. My uncle wouldn't let us have a relationship with him. He felt we were a bad influence. So here I am alone in this apartment and with these babies, and I have to get out. So I called my husband and told him the situation, and he was like, hey, I'm on my way. And so we got everything packed up as much as we could, put things in the storage, and we had to move in with his mom. And so we stayed in the front bedroom with his mom on an air mattress and a futon again. It was me and the babies in one area, him in another area. And so right after we had our 3rd baby, we were still living with his mom and just kind of going through the changes and trying to do different things to take care of our kids and do better, try to see if we can find a place for ourselves. Well, during that time, his mom fell sick. I would never forget, my aunt treated me and my other aunts. My oldest aunt, which was my mom's younger sister, treated us to a cruise that year. And we decided to, he said, no, go. I got the girls, you go. And his mom was gonna help him with the girls. His sister lived there too. So we all worked together as a family. And so we went on a cruise. And the day we got back from the cruise, I called him to see how everything was going because I couldn't talk to them on a cruise. It was so super expensive to call on a cruise. And so I called him, and it was so quiet. And I said, something is wrong. But during that time on the cruise, all I heard God saying, it's like God had me escaping away to read His Word and to pray, and I was fasting, and I was just really seeking God's face, and I didn't understand what He had me doing during this time. Because, matter of fact, this cruise was bringing my family back together because we really had been talking for years. Here I was taking care of babies and being a wife all by myself. And so I'm thinking, okay, this is an opportunity for me to get closer with God. This is not about enjoyment. It's really about my time with God. And I'm glad I did, because when I got back, we pulled up to the house. My aunt had a private car bring me home. And we pulled up, and then basically we found out everybody's rushing out the house. And we're like, why y'all rushing out the house? And so say, hey, we need to go to the hospital. And I'm like, what is going on? Where are my babies? I have not been home. I haven't even seen my babies. What's going on? So we find out that his mom had been rushed to the hospital, had fell unconscious at home. And so I'm finding out all the stories through different bits and pieces that my daughters are watching their grandmother foaming to the mouth on the floor, not knowing what's going on. They have to be taken to the neighbor's house across the street. And that's where my kids were during this time. And basically she's in a coma. She's basically brain dead and having to make a decision to pull the plug. And I'm like, what is going on? She was perfectly fine before I left. And so here we are having to bury his mom only, 2 years later after my mom passed. And we went through that, and I tried to help him through that because he had to be the one to make the decision on behalf of his brother and his sister. And that was the hardest experience ever. But I still was a wife, standing by his side, all those things. And so after we buried his mom and went through that, we made a decision. He decided the money that his mom left him, that we would move into a home. And so we bought a home and started building our family from there. And things seemed to be going well. But shortly after that, after we moved into the home, things, the business was going well, money was coming in. We were still both grieving our mothers, but yet we were still pressing through as a young husband and wife with small children. By this time, I was expecting our fourth child and had her, and only to discover my husband had been cheating again. And at this point, I'm like, okay, what's the excuse now? What's the reason now? I'm not the same wife I was in the beginning. I'm not fussing at you. I'm not cursing at you. I'm not mistreating you. I'm basically trying to do like Sarah did in the Bible, call you Lord of your house, trying to treat you like a king. But yet, it was just really sour. It was like continual lies and continual messages and numbers of women. And then it was, I think it was blackplanet.com back then. It was MySpace. It was all these different social media pages going on with communication with random women. And so it's when I'm like, why am I going through this again? Like, why are we here? Like, didn't we talk about this? But I couldn't get him to be honest with me. I couldn't get him to be faithful. It's like, okay, what do I do at this point? So I'm just raising my girls and going to church. And like at this time, he's serving our pastor at the time faithfully. And I'm watching him do all these things for our pastor. And I'm like, well, why you can do all these things for the pastor, but what about me as your wife? I'm caring for our girls and I'm doing all this by myself, and you're nowhere to be found. Like, I need help. Like, and that began to be a whole nother argument, a whole nother issue. I would have random women passing me in church and saying things. They would walk past me, talk to him, and not even speak to me. and he would not even demand any respect for me. And so I'm like, okay, what's the point? He would, I'm like, okay, is there something wrong with me? Do I deserve this because of the stuff that I've done? Am I reaping what I sowed? Because I slept around with random guys and because, things I had done. So here I am taking on all the condemnation. I'm blaming myself. I'm feeling guilty. Still trying to be a good wife. Still trying to be a good mom. But trying to mentally deal with all this at the same time. No one to really talk to about it. Because I felt like if I told someone about it, it was like I didn't want them to tell me what I already knew I probably should do. And that was end this or make a different decision. And then another part of it was embarrassing. It was like everybody that told me I shouldn't have married him is who I wanted to go talk to, but I didn't want to face the fact of them telling me that I shouldn't have married him. I didn't want to hear that, So I kept all of it inside. I internalized all of it. And I'm like, all I did was pray. And I'm like, God, you got to help me. You got to help me. You got to get me. I remember crying so many nights, going to bed right there on the side of him. Like, can you just get me out of this, please? Can you just rescue me out of this? Like, please get me out of this place. Going to sleep crying, and he doesn't even hear me crying. Wake up crying, just totally depressed. I felt lonely in my marriage. I was like, man, we went through all this together. How could we be here right now? And now, after we moved into that house and we went through a huge financial situation where we ended up losing the house. I think it was a foreclosure, or we ended up selling it before. No, I think it was a foreclosure. So we foreclosed, and we had to move. What did we move to? We moved to a rent house. And by this time we moved to a rent house, we're going through financial struggles. We're going through grief. We're going through being a young parent and now having to still deal with infidelity. And I'm like, man, come on. There got to be something different. And not to mind you, he had a background. And so with dealing with his background, I'm like, I've been there in the trenches with you. Things that you didn't deserve happened to you, but I've been right here with you. And I'm like, why are you doing me like this? Why are you treating me like this? Only to move into that rent house, and I think during that time, there was some young lady he was talking to at the church, and I just dismissed it. I'm like, it is what it is. And I remember looking back, I'm like, is something wrong with me? Am I ugly? Am I unattractive? Like, something is wrong with me. And I'm fixing me. I'm doing something with me because I'm feeling like maybe I'm not being all the wife I should be. Maybe I really messed up the first 3 years of our marriage, being so mean and ugly and tearing him down as a man that I deserve this. So we moved into the house, and we had, I never forget, we were planning our oldest daughter's birthday at a hotel for her to have a summer party. And Hurricane Ike came. And when Hurricane Ike, the storm came, basically it canceled all of our plans to plan anything for her. And we ended up being stuck in the house, trying to maneuver through that because a lot of things were destroyed in that. The roof caved in, the bedding, everything we had purchased for them was basically destroyed. And I had a girlfriend at the time who lived in Fresno, who offered us to come stay in the additional 2 bedrooms that she had in her home. And so we came to stay with her for a while. And during that time, here it is, we're homeless. We're basically homeless, literally. 4 girls, 2 to each twin bed, and him and I are sleeping on an air mattress. And mind you, our kids are small, we're going through this, don't have a home, struggling, his job transitioning because of the storm, they had to do cutbacks, all these different things going on at the same time, yet still trying to manage being a husband and wife, trying to be father and mother, all these different aspects, right? Only to find out, there was one day I went to work, and it was always a routine for me after work to go pick up the kids from daycare and bring them home, shower, feed them, do homework, whatever, get them in bed, to probably sometimes prep their hair for the next day, iron their clothes for the next day, have dinner for him, you know, be a wife, do all the wifely duties, whatever responsibilities, and go to bed. Do it all over again the next day, and the next day, and the next day. Well, one day I went to work and I knew I was not feeling well. I was like so stressed out, I was in so much pain. I had 104 fever. And my boss was like, no, you need to go home. You have a fever, you need to go home. So I remember during that time, he was driving my mom's car because we had lost our other transportation. We only had one transportation. And my mom's car was still usable. So the inspection sticker went out. And so I said, you know what, this is the only time I have to go get this sticker. Let me go ahead and go down to Palm Center, which is down the street from the medical center, to go get this sticker for the car. So he won't be driving around with an expired sticker. I called him and let him know, hey, I'm leaving work. I'm sick, but I'm gonna go ahead and get the sticker for the car and I'll be on my way home. And so I called him, and at the time we had T-Mobile. Everybody knew back then when you have T-Mobile, you call somebody, you need to watch who you text after, because you're gonna be texting the same person you just got off the phone with. Well, I'm standing in line with a fever at the Palm Center to get this sticker for the car that he's driving, being selfless while he's still being selfish. And I get the text message, hey babe, you could at least give me a kiss before you left. And I remember the text like it was yesterday. And I'm thinking to myself, I kissed him before I left to work this morning. I'm like really questioning myself, right? Just thinking out loud, like, did I? Wait a minute, Keosha, you smarter than that. This text was not intended for you. So I politely called him while I was in line at the Palm Center, still waiting, with a fever, not feeling well. And told him, I don't know who your text was intended for, but all I know is when I get home, we need to have a discussion on who it was for. And he tried to make me feel stupid, all the little games that people played to make me feel like I was crazy, no, you overthinking this and that, you know, and I just stopped him. I said, I don't know who you think you're talking to. And the people in line just laughing, because I said, I didn't go to Too Stupid University. I am a highly educated woman. I went to University of Texas at Austin. I have intelligence, and you will not insult my intelligence. And I just politely said, I will talk to you when I get home. And I got out the phone, paid for the sticker, got the sticker, went on home. And of course, he took his precious time to make it come home. And I get these messages back to back. You know, one of his friends at the time, which I did not trust at all because he helped him lie, telling me that, you know, he was trying to send some foolishness. It don't even matter. But however, when he got home, he tried to tell me what this was and whatever. And my girlfriend and we homeless, and this boy is cheating. And I'm like, what is going on? And so my girlfriend was like, Keosha, he gotta go. Cause she have a zero tolerance for foolishness. And she saw my sacrifice. She saw my diligence. She saw my heart. And she was like, no, he can't stay in my house. I'm sorry, I know that's your husband. I know that's your business, but I can't do it because I am not gonna be respectful. I am not going to handle this well. I'm telling you, I'm ready to fight. And so I knew her, and I was like, you need to go ahead and get your things and go, because I already know. And he tried to do all this begging and pleading or whatever. I asked her, please let me do it. She did respect me enough to allow me to handle it. And so he left for I think it was about 2 weeks. He went and stayed with his best friend and his wife and their family. And he would see us in passing at church, and he would see us in passing at work or whatever. But I didn't have much to say to him. I had found out he had been dating this young lady from the church for a year. And he had drove my mother's car to go meet her at Whataburger for lunch. Now, here's a man that never took the time to meet me for lunch, hardly ever, that, you know, we both just lost our moms, we both are homeless, we both just have these children, and I am going through this again. So at this point, I'm like, you know, I don't think I want to do this anymore. I don't think I want to be here anymore. I thought about suicide again. I was like, you know, I don't know if people really know, you just feel so unwanted. And everyone wants to know their place. They want to feel wanted. They want to feel appreciated. They want to feel validated. And I felt at my lowest because this young lady at the time, I helped her get a job. I helped her write resumes. I gave clothes to her children for her children to wear because she had smaller children than ours. And I'm like, I made myself available to you. If you ever needed anything, I made myself available to you. Why did you turn to him? Or why did he even turn to you? And so his thing was, he didn't have sex with her, but he tried. It's still cheating. In case you didn't know, you still tried. And if she had gave in, you would all the way. So it's not a matter of not making it to the third base. The fact is, you tried it and you attempted to, and you're married. So faithfulness, it was not clicking. So then shortly after, you know, he tried to express to me, you know, all the things that we were dealing with at the time was causing great stress. She was a great outlet for him, and, you know, basically it was an escape away from all the demands and responsibilities. And I'm like, don't I have to deal with the same demands and responsibilities that you have? Am I not in this with you? Am I not sharing the same space? But it still was not enough. We went on, we went to counseling. At the time, the pastor at the time talked to both of us and was like, he said something that really clicked. He mentioned that, and I know he had a love for us. He had a love for our family. He really wanted us to work it out. He wanted us to stick it out and make it. And he said to me, he said, Keosha, I really believe that the enemy is causing this to happen to cause you to put your girls in the same position that you were raised in, the same environment, to get them with a stepdaddy to do out. And it made sense. It was like a repeat of a generational cycle that I wanted to end. I wanted to be the one to end that. I didn't want divorce. I didn't want to be a single mother. I didn't want to have my children be raised in a broken home or any of that. But I didn't want a husband that was going to be unfaithful to me either. I wanted a husband that was going to love me and treat me right. And I'm like, what happened to that guy I dated? But yet, I should have recognized the red flags anyway, but that's another story. But he talked to my husband at the time. He was telling him, hey, it's not right what you did. You need to get right. This is your family. You need to get your butt in place and position to do what you're supposed to be doing. Now, I'm going to give you a job, and I'm going to make sure you're able to help take care of your family. So our pastor at the time gave him a job, made sure he was able to take care of our family. You know, it was income coming in, so it was no excuse. So it was like a whole nother opportunity. So we started working towards things. We started building again. And so by this time, he was like, if we're going to build again, can we please move out of your friend's house? Because I really think she don't like me, and she didn't like me. No, she didn't. And so I understood it was not a comfortable environment, especially if you're trying to work on your marriage and you have somebody fighting against you on doing that. And so we moved out and we got a rent house and close to our old church. And we stayed there for years, trying to build on our marriage. I started celebrating him more. I started honoring him more, just doing a lot of different things. And, he started taking care of the family more, doing more things with the girls and doing more things for me. And we didn't date as much. We couldn't really afford to do a lot of that, but we tried to do some things together. And so after doing those things, we ended up right back in the same place again. Some other young lady, random chicks he's talking to. And I'm like, man, like, okay, is this not gonna stop? By this time, he's working on becoming, getting his education, getting his associate's degree, to become work in the funeral industry. And I'm holding it down. I haven't even scratched the surface of my education yet. I'm still working on my bachelor's from what I started on maybe 5 years prior to that. I'm waiting till he finish so that I can get back in school and finish what I started. And so I'm like, dude, this is just not cool. We can't keep doing this. Like, you gotta get you some help, something. So we started talking about counseling, and that was a way he would reel me in. He would talk about all these great things, and only to discover we never did any of them. It was just a way to reel me back in. And so we moved there. We was living there for a while. Then finally we started working on, we were trying to buy a house, but we still had some issues with our credit. We need to get some things done. So another friend of ours offered for us to take over the mortgage for one of her homes that she had. Right, that wasn't too far away from the church either. So we moved there because the rent where we were, it had become too high for us to pay, and we had kind of fell on hard financial times, and we had to make some transitions because we still had daycare, we still had back and forth taking the kids to school, and by this time we started taking care of his younger brother that's lived with us for about a year or two until he decided he didn't want to live with us anymore. So I tried to be help in that area, but that wasn't working. And so we moved to this other house. And we moved to this house, we started having issues because he had a friend that did taxes. Well, I didn't trust our motives. And I believe that God gave us a great discernment. And based on the track record, no, we need to find another person to do our taxes. Well, he decided he's gonna let her do our taxes anyway, so he didn't come home till like 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't know who doing taxes at that time of the night, but we're gonna leave it at that.